Hey, what's up, people? Piz out here, and to kick off my series, 13 Days of Friday the 13th, I'm going to talk to you guys today about the original Friday the 13th from 1980. The year of my birth also saw the birth of an iconic series, a franchise that continues to this day, some 33 years and running. And I'm going to assume that you guys have all seen Friday the 13th. I'm hoping you guys have all seen the original Friday the 13th, hopefully many, many times, so that this series can be less a series of sort of traditional reviews of the Friday the 13th films and more just an open discussion, just us talking about the movies one by one. And of course, Friday the 13th is the story of Camp Crystal Lake, the curse, the cursed Camp Crystal Lake. A young boy drowned there many, many years ago. Then a couple of counselors were murdered. Some years after that, the entire camp burnt down. Some years after that, the water supply was poisoned. So it's truly a cursed place, and the residents of the town around Crystal Lake are right in their assessment that it is cursed, it is jinxed. But a young fellow by the name of Steve Christie has decided that he is going to reopen the camp. He hires a crew of young camp counselors and cooks to help him clean the place up and get it ready for all the kiddies to come and have a great summer at Camp Blood. And then, of course, they all start to disappear one by one. And of course, Friday the 13th is a very distinctive horror film on many, many levels. When you think of all the big franchises, all the big horror franchises, it's always the original film of that series that is A, the best of the series, the best film of the series, and B, is the most influential on every other film in the series. Friday the 13th cannot say that, cannot answer yes to either A or B. Personally, I don't think it's the best film of the series, and it is the least influential on every film in the rest of the Friday the 13th series. Friday the 13th was born of basically desperation, out of desperation. Sean Cunningham and his production crew that included Steve Miner, they wanted to cash in on Halloween success. They basically wanted to rip off Halloween. That was the instruction that the writer Victor Miller was given. Hey, have you seen Halloween? It's making a lot of money. Watch it and rip it off. Sean Cunningham and his crew, they were working toward their big children's movie. That was their focus. That was what they were working toward. They thought that this children's movie was going to be their launching pad into Hollywood success, and Friday the 13th would simply be a film to make a quick buck, to keep the lights on, to put some food on the table, and no one would ever remember it. It would come and go very quickly. Of course, the complete polar opposite happened. Friday the 13th became Friday the 13th, and this children's movie, who's ever seen it, who's ever heard of it, who knows anything about it? Friday the 13th was born really a title. Sean Cunningham had a title, Friday the 13th. He put an ad out in Variety that said, you know, from the producer of Last House on the Left, the most terrifying film ever made, a Friday the 13th, and investors came to him. He didn't have to go to investors. Investors came to him based solely on the title, Friday the 13th. What a catchy title for a horror film. The title alone will sell this horror film. And Friday the 13th takes a lot of pages sort of from giallo movies, I think. Sort of murder mystery, you know, a lot of killer POVs. You see the killer's hands a lot, you see the killer's feet a lot. Although Friday the 13th Part 2 definitely took a huge influenced by a page from Mario Bava's giallo Bay of Blood. You can definitely see that influence in the original Friday the 13th as well. And Friday the 13th, even though it's very low budget, it's clearly shot very, very quickly. They had a very short schedule, no money. Like I said, the attention was more on the children's movie than on Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th was basically, let's get it done, let's get it out, let's make a buck, and let's move on. You get that feeling watching the movie. However, the movie has a lot going for it. I mean, number one, the film just has this very dark, foreboding, creepy atmosphere throughout it, as if death lingers around every corner, and that is really cool. That's actually kind of an atmosphere that the next two Friday the 13th, or the next three Friday the 13th films sort of followed. But it has that really creepy, evil atmosphere that I really like a lot. It's summertime, it's beautiful sort of scenery, but there's just this palpable sense of just dread and just, bad things are going to happen. I like the characters in the film. I think the characters they are all likable characters. They're all believable characters, and that's something that, you can invest in the characters. You can find them likable. You understand this is a slasher movie. At some point, they are all going to die. But when you at least invest a little bit in them, when they do die, oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. I like the fact that that the writing is actually pretty good for the film. There are some character-y moments. For instance, Kevin Bacon's character's girlfriend, when she's talking about the dream where it begins raining blood on her. I really like that moment. I think that's a really nice, just character-y moment that in really any other Friday the 13th film would have been the first thing that got excised as being unneeded, and it wouldn't have even been in the film. I like that. I like the characters in the film. I think they're well written. I think it's well acted. I really appreciate that about Friday the 13th. The makeup effects, the kills in the movie, of course, are all great. Tom Savini. I vividly remember the murder of Annie toward the beginning of the film. The throat cutting of Annie. When I first saw that, even today when I see that, there's kind of a knee-jerk reaction because it does look real. It looks really good, even by today's standards. It looks great, and that's just good old-fashioned practical makeup effects done by Tom Savini. The axe to the face scene is great. The arrow through Kevin Bacon's character's throat is great. You have a lot of great kills in this movie. A lot of great kill sequences, a lot of great deaths in the film. So I mean, that's definitely, in a slasher film, a must. And you've got a great heroine in the film, the character of Alice. You have a great heroine there. You have a great sort of, and again, assuming that all of you guys have probably seen Friday the 13th and many times over, you have kind of a sympathetic killer. Of course, Jason is not the killer in the original Friday the 13th. It is Mrs. Voorhees. And you can almost meet her halfway because her poor son, her poor special needs son, was not supervised. He runs out into the lake. He drowns. And the counselors were not paying attention. The counselors were off having sex. You'd be a little angry. You'd probably go a little crazy yourself if that happened to you, and you would want vengeance. So you can almost meet her kind of halfway. She's a good mama. That's sort of what you can say about Mrs. Voorhees. She was a good mama, and she loved her little boy. She loved him so much that she would kill a lot of people for him. She would commit a small genocide for her son. And Betsy Palmer as Mrs. Voorhees, of course, she only took the role because her car broke down. She needed a new car, and they offered her this movie. They offered her like $30,000 to be in it for a few days, and she said, hey, you can buy a new car with that money. Nobody will ever see this movie. It's complete trash. It's complete garbage. I'll take the money and I'll run. And of course, she'll forever be known as Mrs. Voorhees, the mother of, the icon, the legendary Jason Voorhees. So, Friday the 13th is, of course, it does have its weaknesses. It does have its problems. It's very atavistic filmmaking. But overall, I really like the film a lot. I think it, although I don't consider it to be necessarily the best film of the series, it does do a lot of things right, and it is a very well done slasher movie. Of course, Paramount went and picked it up, released it, gave it a really wide release, and of course, that was the dawning of not just the Friday the 13th franchise, but of, I think, really horror movies of the 80s. Of course, I mean, Halloween was a big part of it, but Friday the 13th proved that, major studios can go out, pick up these low-budget slasher movies, open them wide, and make a ton of money. And that was the dawning of, you know, just that period from really 80 to like 84, where, you know, every major studio was looking to pick up their own slasher movie, and you had some really great slasher movies come out in that era. That was sort of the golden era of slasher movies, and Friday the 13th definitely deserves a huge credit for giving us that. And yeah, I mean, a lot's been said about Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, the original film, you know, I could go on talking about it for, you know, for an hour. But I won't. I think it's a really good slasher movie. I think it's a great flick. I think it's a classic movie in its own regard. I think it's well written. I think it's well acted. The kills are great. The special effects are great. It's got that great atmosphere. Yeah, it's just a really good slasher movie, and it richly deserves its status as a classic. So yeah, please, you know, let me know what you guys think of the original Friday the 13th. What you know, what it did right, what you think it did right, what you think it did wrong. You know, its status. You know, yeah, just really open up the comment section and turn it into more or less really just a discussion of Friday the 13th. And as I proceed on with the other Friday the 13th films, all the Friday the 13th films. And so yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys again real soon with my thoughts on Friday the 13th Part 2, The Nightmare Continues. I'll see you guys later. Peace.